As a 26-year-old man, married with 2 kids, a wife, and the fact that I don't even watch or really even like anime at all, I don't think when Sony was making this movie, they had my face in mind at all. I don't think I made their audience or demographic bracket. And yeah, I know this movie is an anime, but I'm just trying to show you what kind of guy I am, what kind of audience this is really catering to versus who I am as a person. But me and my family watched this movie already 3 to 4 times, and the music from this movie has taken over my life to the point where it became daily jam sessions in my car, even when I'm just going to Starbucks. But despite this movie taking over the entire world and my whole family loving it, there's one major problem. Not even a couple of weeks after this movie came out, people are already saying that it doesn't only look better than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but it's just genuinely better overall. But why? Why does everybody love this movie so much? Is it overrated? Are these songs really demon-possessed? Or is this movie just actually that good? Well, let me tell you the truth. It's 2021 and director Maggie Kane comes up with this idea for a Korean mythology demon movie, but somehow K-pop got into the mix in this idea, and before you know it, Sony Pictures greenlights this movie and it begins production. So for 4 years straight, they passionately worked on a movie about a K-pop girl band named Huntrix who have to fight against demons using their voice, until one day the demons decide, you know what, let's be a K-pop boy band and take these girls down. Oh, and also, it's gonna be a musical, and we're gonna hire the best K-pop producers and artists, and this soundtrack is gonna take over your life whether you like it or not. And just by saying all this stuff out loud, I can't believe what I'm saying. I can't believe I watched this movie and loved it, because it's so not something I would watch. And don't get me wrong, there were things I did not like about this movie, especially the fact that they made the girls all hot on this boy band over here, making their eyes turn into popcorn while they're looking at naked abs. Come on. Like, even after watching the first 5 to 10 minutes of this movie, I found myself trying to hate it and trying to make fun of it. But even then, I still found myself toe tapping and shoulder popping. I couldn't resist these jams, and I was just locked into this story, man. I was really into it. But what's the deal here? What movie is actually better? So let's break these 2 films into different categories, compare them both to each other, and the movie with the most points in each category will be crowned the better animated film. Into the Spider-Verse was the first big full-length film that followed a Spider-Man that wasn't Peter Parker. It follows Miles Morales and gives us his origin story as he encounters a bunch of other different Spider-Men. And even though this movie dragged most of the audience to it because it's a Spider-Man movie, the character's story and development in this movie is just unbelievable. And even though it's an animation, it's still one of the best Spider-Man movies ever made. Now, with K-pop Demon Hunters and their characters, they didn't have a name like Spider-Man to bring people to watch it. It's a complete new world, new story, new personalities. Everything had to be made from scratch. And even though you could tell they took heavy inspiration from the Powerpuff Girls, these characters very much have their own personality and style. But story and development wise, it felt like these characters kind of had to mush all their stories together. Like, right away the movie starts, they're already a successful K-pop band and we fight demons and that's it. You just gotta accept it, and we're not fleshing it out for you. There's not really that much of an origin, even though there's a little small recap at the start, but that's it. And honestly, that doesn't make it a bad movie, but comparing it side by side, and because of how much more I love Spider-Man, I definitely think Into the Spider-Verse has better characters. Miles Morales struggles to live up to his expectations of his father, who's a police officer named Jefferson Davis. And one day, while hanging out with his uncle Aaron Davis, who's a criminal and not on speaking terms with his own dad, they went into a subway, made some graffiti art, and before you know it, he gets bit by a radioactive spider to become the one and only Spider-Man. But that's the problem. He's not the one and only Spider-Man. His universe already has a Spider-Man. Not only that, but this ginormous freak of a man named Wilson Fisk just opened up portals to bring in even more Spider-Man into his universe. And now all of them have to come together to not only train Miles how to be Spider-Man, but work together to stop Wilson Fisk from destroying Miles' universe. And guys, just from reading the plot and saying all that, it made me want to stop making this video and go rewatch the movie, because it's just that good of a story. Honestly, on paper, it sounds chaotic, it sounds cheesy, it sounds like it's not gonna work, but it does, and it's amazing, and I love this film. A K-pop girl band named Huntrix use their secret identities to protect their fans from demons. But when the demons decide to make a rival K-pop boy band, Rumi, Myra, and Zoe have to come together to face their biggest enemy yet. Look guys, when my daughter forced me to watch this movie for the first time, like I said, I was not interested. I didn't even like the way this story sounded. But man, I was dead wrong. Not only was this story so entertaining, but the ending was absolutely beautiful, and I love this movie too. So story-wise, even though both movies have really good messages, Miles' story is just so much more intimate, grounded, and it's just so much more easier to connect to and relate to. And for that reason alone, I'm gonna have to give Into the Spider-Verse the better story. Now, because of how much Into the Spider-Verse and those movies changed animated films forever, with almost every new movie trying to look and match its style, like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, The Bad Guys, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, The Wild Robot, Nimona, Predator: Killer of Killers, Transformers 1. Like, don't get me wrong, these movies are all still very much their own thing, and they are all fantastic films, but you can clearly see how much Into the Spider-Verse inspired the look and animation of those films. But when it comes to this movie, even though it was made by the same studio who made the Spider-Verse films, it somehow still has its own look and its own sauce. But honestly, I still see the similarities between Spider-Verse and this movie. However, your boy's got a hot take. I really like the way they did the animation in this movie, probably even a little bit better. And sure, you can argue and roast me in the comments about Into the Spider-Verse being so much better, but I know for sure it's better than Across the Spider-Verse, which I felt was a very nervousing, extremely fast-paced, and super over-edited movie that at sometimes for me was hard to watch. Like, I couldn't understand or comprehend what I was seeing on screen because there was so much happening at one time, so many different animations and effects, and it just felt like the movie never gave you a chance to indulge it and look at it, whereas this movie really takes time to show you those things, but it's still fast-paced. So even though Into the Spider-Verse literally changed how animated movies look forever, I don't know, man, I just genuinely think K-Pop Demon Hunters is a way more beautiful looking film. Into the Spider-Verse's soundtrack is basically a rap album featuring Post Malone, Sway Lee, Jaden Smith.
Can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now?
Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne, Ty Dolla $ign. But even though this soundtrack had 13 songs, there's one song that's still being played on the radio to this day, and that's Sunflower, which is actually the main theme song for this movie. Miles Morales even sings and listens to this song in the movie. Now, K-Pop Demon Hunter soundtrack is basically a K-pop album. Isn't that a shocker? Guys, I'm not gonna lie. Just the first 4 songs of this soundtrack alone are all freaking bangers. This soundtrack almost has like no skips. So even though both of these movies have unbelievable soundtracks, K-Pop Demon Hunters clears Into the Spider-Verse, man. Their soundtracks got no skips. It's almost like this movie was based around the soundtrack first. And really, this is an unfair comparison because one movie is made for K-pop and the other movie is made for Spider-Man. So the fact that we're comparing them at all still shows you how amazing the soundtrack was in Into the Spider-Verse. And now we're gonna compare these movies with the most important category of all, the rewatch value. And guys, I'm just gonna make this short and sweet. I already watched K-Pop Demon Hunters more than I watched Into the Spider-Verse, and it's only been out for a couple of weeks. Now, keep in mind, that is biased. I have 2 daughters that are obsessed with this movie, and they play it all day long in the house anyway. Because if it was up to me, and if I had 2 sons, I'd probably be watching Into the Spider-Verse all day long. So even though technically I'm supposed to give this point to K-Pop Demon Hunters, my heart wants to give it to Into the Spider-Verse because I think it's a way more rewatchable movie that can be enjoyed by everyone. But what's the bottom line? Is this movie better than both of those movies? You know what? It just depends on who you ask. For me, no. I don't think it's better than the first Into the Spider-Verse. However, you can make an argument that this is better than the second Spider-Verse film, and I wouldn't blame you because yes, it's that freaking good. There's a reason why this movie in only a couple of weeks became Netflix's most watched film of all time with over 230 million views. And that report came out a couple of weeks ago. God knows what it's at now. And they're already talking about making a sequel to this thing. In fact, they're thinking about making it a trilogy. But if you ask me, if they turn this into a Netflix series and put a lot of passion and love into it just like they did to the movies, this franchise could be this generation's Powerpuff Girls, and it could be even better. And originally, this movie was supposed to be a big, wide theatrical release, but even the companies behind this movie didn't have faith in the project, thinking it was too niche, too risky, a little too weird, so it went straight to Netflix instead. But let me tell you something, this movie performed so well on Netflix that Netflix made a sing-along theatrical run for 2 days and the tickets sold out. This movie is basically the Powerpuff Girls mixed with Frozen and Into the Spider-Verse. And not only does it have a phenomenal story with a great message, but it's genuinely one of the most beautiful looking animated films I've ever seen. And with this movie being about demons, it was another reason why it's so not for me. I'm a born-again Christian and I don't like watching stuff about the devil. I thought this thing was gonna be evil, but guess what? They're going against the demons, man. They're trying to stop them. That's freaking sick. Besides Avatar: The Last Airbender, this is the next best thing I ever watched to like anime or something similar to this genre. And look, there's gonna be some people that watch this movie and absolutely hate it, and people out there that make fun of you for actually thinking this is a good movie. But if that's the case, it's just blind hatred, because I found myself almost doing the same thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this movie showed me you gotta give every film a chance, especially if people are saying it's good. I don't know, guys, which movie do you think is better? If you have an opinion, do me a favor and don't leave a comment. Do not like this video, and definitely don't subscribe because I'm a nutcase and I'm gonna ruin your life. But anyway, thanks for watching the video. Take care. God bless.